Are you thinking about writing a memoir? Hi there, my name is Brian Collins. Welcome to the Become a Writer Today channel. During the lockdown of 2020, I, like many people, had a lot of free time on my hands. I spent some of that free time writing blog posts and articles for Become a Writer Today, but I also wrote this memoir. It's a story-driven parenting book called I Can't Believe I'm a Dad. And it's about my experiences when I unexpectedly became a father in my early 20s, back when I had a lot more hair. It was a fun book to write, but when I started writing this memoir, I learned one key distinction between memoir and autobiography. This key distinction is important to understand if you're interested in memoir or if you fancy writing one at some point. You see, memoir and autobiography are words that new writers often interchange, but they mean two different things. An autobiography focuses on the history of the individual. It tells the whole story of their life, where they were born, where they grew up, what they did, and so on. It requires a lengthy life because you got to fill an entire book, or an extraordinary life, or perhaps you're just some famous celebrity like Kim Kardashian. Memoir, on the other hand, that's a book like this, aims to tell just one part of the story. It aims to reveal some universal truth rather than recount an entire chronology of somebody's life. So it focuses on the topic rather than on the individual. And the purpose of a good memoir is to inform, to entertain, or to inspire your readers. It's not about providing a complete chronology or a narrative like you'll get in a lengthy autobiography of a politician or a political leader or a celebrity. Now, some new writers often think that they need to be in their 60s or their 70s to write a memoir. But I discovered that anyone can write one at any time. All you need to do is pick a single topic or a single event from your life and go deep into it. You simply need to recount your point of view using honest and deep stories. Now, if you're looking for some good examples of memoir to learn more about it, here are a couple of books I recommend. One of the best memoirs you can read is called Drinking a Love Story by Caroline Knapp. Now, sadly, Caroline passed away in her early 40s a few years ago. But her book is a fantastic read because it recounts her 20-year struggle with alcoholism during the 1980s and 1990s. Now, even if you're not somebody who's interested in alcoholism per se, her story is still a revealing and personal read. Another fantastic memoir to check out is called My Left Foot by Christy Brown. Christy Brown is an Irish author who grew up in working class Dublin with a disability, and he wrote his book with, yes, his left foot. And he describes what it was like to grow up in a working class family and aspire to become a writer in this particular autobiography. There are other memoirs out there that you should check out too. Perhaps one of the most famous examples is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. I also particularly like The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion, who also sadly recently passed away. The book is all about grief when her husband suddenly died unexpectedly at the dinner table and her response to it. And it actually won a number of awards when it was published in the early 2000s. It really is a heart-wrenching read because it speaks to the universal truth of loss and grief, and it's something that anybody can relate to. So now that you understand the differences between memoir and autobiography, why would you want to write a memoir in the first place? Number one, to practice writing. So if you have a regular writing practice or you follow a regular journaling habit, chances are you have some great source material which you could potentially turn into fodder for your memoir. You can go back and read through your old journal entries, look for recurring themes or topics, and then you could pick one of these themes or topics and expand on them for your memoir. You could, for example, write a memoir about your love affair with gardening, with cats, or even with a holiday home in the south of France. You're combining your knowledge and experiences and insights with research that readers can relate to. And the result is less about you, because it's not an autobiography, than it is about a universal experience that people will enjoy reading about. The second reason why you may want to write a memoir is to make sense of life. Therapy is expensive. On the other hand, when you write a memoir, you can review your past experiences and your thoughts on an idea or a topic and figure out what makes sense to you. It can become a type of healing, and it's free unless you count the time you spend writing it. Memoir, as a means of making sense of your life, partly explains why books about painful topics like alcoholism, such as Caroline Knapp's book, or grief, like Joan Didion's, are so popular. These are universal experiences that many people can relate to but struggle to understand. And it's the author's job often to write about these topics in ways that readers can understand, even if they can't necessarily articulate it themselves. The third reason, and perhaps the reason why I wrote this memoir, is to tell a personal story. Telling stories are the jobs of any writer, whether you write fiction or non-fiction. Writers love telling stories, often make-believe ones about characters they've come up with or worlds in their head like Harry Potter. It's sometimes easier to tell stories about something that's happened to you or an experience you can immediately relate to than it is to come up with a fictional story or a tale. However, by writing a memoir, you can tell a story about your family, your friends, colleagues, and real-life characters. You can take regular life experiences and turn them into something memorable for readers. That's an approach the essayist David Sedaris takes for his colourful essays. Now, if you're wondering, sometimes it's good practice to write your memoir or write an early draft and then show it to people who appear in it before you publish it. So that way you can figure out if there's anything really sensitive that you should remove. But you may be surprised by how willing and accepting people are when they see themselves in your memoir. And often they're more concerned with just changing some factual statement rather than being removed entirely. The fourth reason for writing memoir is to capture memories. Memory is an unreliable narrator. It's one thing to understand the facts and figures of an event, like Germany losing World War II, Lee Harvey Oswald shooting John F. Kennedy, or that you were bullied in school. But it's quite another to describe these experiences. And not only that, but over the years, your memory of an event will shift depending on your age, point of view, and bias. Your understanding of an experience may change too as you gather more information or simply forget about it. But by writing a memoir, you're capturing a snapshot of that experience from a specific moment in time. That brings me to the fifth reason why you may want to write memoir, and that's to understand an event, idea, or a topic. Often we possess a vague understanding of a topic or a concept, but ask any good writer and they'll tell you that writing involves clarifying precisely what happened to whom and when. It's a type of journalism, and perhaps memoir is a type of journalism of your own life. It prompts the writer to engage deeply with a concept or a topic and to figure out their opinions and beliefs. It encourages them to articulate their ideas with using the written word. Now, you may have an idea of what it means to be depressed or like to spend a year living in the south of France, but these ideas and opinions may shift when you actually have to clarify them on the blank page. Writing a memoir can be a type of mental exploration in that you can probe, unpick, and learn more about an idea while writing about it. You may even discover that that initial idea in your memoir doesn't actually quite reflect what you believe or what happened. The sixth reason for writing a memoir is to become an author. Many people say they have a book inside of them, but few actually take the time to turn their idea for a book into reality. That's because it's often difficult to take ideas for characters, stories, scenes, and locations and write them up into chapters and then a finished book. What's more, new writers often don't have a consistent writing habit, producing a set amount of words each day. But it is, however, much easier to write about non-fiction events that happen to you and which you're intimately familiar with. It's kind of like writing a letter to a friend. You can write about these events and you don't have to spend as much time researching, outlining, or planning versus a huge fiction or genre fiction novel. And if you're a new writer, writing a memoir could be a good way of developing a writing habit. And even if your memoir doesn't sell many copies, and I'll cover that one in a moment, you can still draw on this writing habit later to write something else, something faster next time around. That brings me to the seventh and final reason why you may want to consider writing a memoir. That's to sell books. If you want to write books that sell, writing a memoir is an excellent genre to consider. Personal essays and personal non-fiction has become more and more popular over the past few decades. That's partly thanks to authors and memoirists or essayists like David Sedaris, Nora Ephron, and Joan Didion. Non-fiction or non-fiction book sales have grown exponentially over the years too. I came across a fascinating report on Reporter which said that the worldwide market for non-fiction books grew from just over 13 billion in 2021 to nearly 14 billion in 2022. And speaking from personal experience, I found that non-fiction tends to sell incredibly well when it's written as an audiobook. And that's what I did. When I sold some copies of my Kindle and paperback memoir, I used these book royalties to hire a book studio for several weeks, and I narrated the memoir each morning. It wasn't really to earn a lot of money from the book because I was only writing one book in the series, but it was a type of fun, creative project which was able to pay for itself over time. And hey, think about it this way. If you're a fiction author, chances are some of your readers may read your non-fiction too. Perhaps the biggest and most high-profile example is Stephen King, because his memoir on writing is almost, and yes, it's a memoir of writing, it's almost as famous as his best-selling thriller and horror books. Those are 7 different reasons why you may want to consider writing memoir. But perhaps the key takeaway, if you've got this far, is this. An autobiography is a narrative or a chronology of events. It recounts the entirety or near entirety of somebody's life. It's something that's written by politicians, notable figures, and of course, celebrities. Whereas a memoir is about a topic, a concept, or point of view, and it reveals a type of universal truth. Hope you enjoyed the content in this video. If you do, hit thumbs up, and to get more videos like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.